all new. AM 1150 WTMP.com.
Okay. Mama, here go them men again. if you got them kind of kids, I'm from the hood. When they used to say, she say she ain't home. I keep remembering that from the old '97 man used to come by. Clean cut white guy, get a new Cadillac every year. It was something about that whole scenario. So here we are, Porch Talk Radio. It's 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. Got a lot of stuff going on. The new mayor took over this week, and I guess the new city council had their first meeting next week, and I heard they had one hell of a reception, swearing in, all kind of folks who were against them showed up to help them celebrate. So I guess it's kind of like that in Tampa. You've been against on the other side the whole time. But no matter who wins, you're gonna show up at the party and you're gonna help them celebrate. So welcome to Tampa Bay. I got one of them shows I got to do today because it's some stuff that happened over the last week, and it's something that it saddens me, and it's something that I figure I had something to say something about, even though a lot of people have been talking today about Mr. James Hammond, who passed on May 1st, James Arthur Hammond, and I knew Mr. Hammond because at one point in time there, I was vice chairman of THAP and all the stuff that go with it, and I was second in command over there for us, the hiring and firing and signing paychecks and making sure stuff got done. And Mr. Hammond was a historical figure, so I ain't got to tell you that. He's got a video, the video movie, about his life and how important he was to Tampa Bay, and he was in the military and all that kind of stuff. So I just wanted to get that out there before we actually start the show, because that's something that's important, not just to me, not just to his family, but to the Tampa Bay community. We lost a great man, Mr. James Arthur Hamilton. Okay, so we're going to get the show started. This is Eddie Adams Jr.
Live.
Doing what we do on Saturdays at 1 o'clock. We bring to you Porch Talk Radio. And believe it or not, Porch Talk Radio has been around since January 15th, 2010.
It's a long time.
It's a long time. We getting there. So we've been around a while. We've had a couple of incarnations, death and rising and coming back from the ashes like the phoenix, because we was on WGUL Saturday afternoon at 4, and then we was on TBCN, TV and radio, and I think we did that at like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and when we first started here in TMP a couple of years ago, we came on at 1, then we went to 12, then we went to 10, and now we're back at 1. So I like...
And still the best rated.
Yeah, and I like the 12 o'clock slot better, but it's okay, because we have proven that you give us a microphone, we'll create an audience, we'll make one, we'll take the one we got with us wherever we go.
Because we have a good, solid, principled message to give, Eddie. Just sharing the good news, the gospel.
Well, we're good.
Of conservatism.
I'm glad, because whatever it is we do, we keep doing it. And from the ratings, from what I've been told, between the 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock hour, we got the 1 and number 2, most highly rated shows on Saturday. So I want to say TMP period, but again, I know on Saturday we got the number 1 and number 2 rated program. So again, I thank God for that. Give Him all the glory because what I do, I don't study and prepare. I just talk about stuff we know and current events and give my opinion. And because they're my opinions, I'm not trying to be right, trying to be wrong, but 99.999% of the time, I'm mostly right. So I'm just throwing that out there because if I'm ever wrong, I know, and you guys know, that somebody will look it up, call in, and try to make a point of making me wrong. So it's better for me not to be wrong than it is to shoot some stuff out there and then have it come back and blow me in the face. So I don't like that. So I try to make sure whatever I'm talking about, I have a basis of truth, and that basis of truth will stand on its own. So, okay, let's start the show. For those who want to call in today during the show, the call-in number is 813-251-9867. 813-251-9867. If you want to call me, and I gotta say, I keep throwing my cell phone number out, and I get young people calling now. I have been told that this is a 50 or 60 and older kind of show, which is what I actually thought. But I got millennials, and I got some people in their 20s and 30s who are listening to this show. And they're actually taking my advice because they're calling me with questions if they don't understand. So the information is good, and young people are listening. They may not be acting as much as you older folks, because I'm one of them old radical, Republican activists. But again, I'm in the system. So when I tell you that if you want to get something done, that you got to run a campaign, and like most political animals, before it comes to a vote, before city council, county commissioners, or the state, legislature, wherever it's going to be voted on, make sure you got the votes. A school board, make sure you already know that you ran your campaign, that you talked to the right people, and when they got to make a decision, you're not guessing what that decision is going to be.
So know your business. Know what you're going to do before you get up there. And folks, if you don't know, you ask. You call up Eddie and say, hey, what's going on with this? You ask, because Eddie's always in the know. He goes to these boring meetings. That most of us ain't going to waste our gas to go down there or mess with the parking meters. Yeah. But yet Eddie is the one that's involved. He's got passion behind this because he cares. Yeah. You've been doing this how long, Eddie?
Oh, I just said
involved in these meetings?
Well, I've been
downtown. How long have you been going downtown for those meetings?
I've been involved in this stuff generally since I guess 2004. That's when I actually ran for city council for the
I think I was just out of high school then.
City of Tampa Bay. So that's where I started. Then I ran for U.S. Congress, for 8 years, 4 terms, and again, once I became I became politically community active and aware.
And you begin motivating people.
Well, again, part of it is you got to join community groups and organizations, and then you get extended. So you join, so you become a member of like 30-something groups and 30-some organizations, and you have no time of your own. So getting older, I'm now experiencing, the have to cut back mode. I'm having to cut back some of this stuff.
You mean nap time's taking over?
Well, being in school all day, every day, then having a nap, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning, going to school at 7. For those who don't know,
I'm too old for that. Forget it. I can't do
welding, that. So I never actively had a job in my working career where I stood up all day. But I'm now taking welding, and guess what? You do in welding. You stand up all day. So again, I had to get used to that. I mean, you're doing stuff, but you're still standing up all day. Some of you had jobs where you stood up all day. Not I did not have one of those jobs. My undergraduate degree was in microbiology, and then my master's in architecture, and to do both of those jobs, I worked in a hospital for 20 years, and then I worked for an architecture office for another, nearly 20 years. So between the two, none of those involve standing on your feet all day. So anyway, sponsors, people who bring us, who have brought us to you for this time. The Hillsborough County Republican Executive Committee, those guys are the reason we're able to do. We sold this idea to them, and they kind of latched on,
and they've been faithful
and been good.
They want the message out in the minority communities, basically, that the Republican Party is not just only want them for the votes. We want to help if we can in the community as well, and you're involved in that as well.
And we got the right leader too, because Jim is on top of it. Colonel Jim, the chairman of Hillsborough County Republican Executive Committee, is somebody who's been meeting with Yvette Lewis and trying to get the party involved with the community, and that's important work.
He's not giving up, and that's awesome.
Yeah, somebody had to do it, and again, Jim is right. Jim is the right guy to lead the party down the new path. Even though the path of the Republican Party in the black community had not been one of those shining, golden, like they say in Lilliput, the Wizard of Oz, Street of Gold, not been one of those kind of paths, but it's been rocky and thorny and all the other stuff, but we're getting better. It's better now than it's ever been. So I give all the credit for that to Jim, Commander Jim Warshak. For the Republican Executive Committee. So thank you, Jim. Thank you for the support of the program. And Todd Jones has been there from the beginning. Todd is very important to us. And John Desbrow, the owner of PrintFast, printing all your printing needs. I mean, John is there. They're almost from the beginning, not from the very beginning, but
he's been holding strong.
Since we've been here at TMP, John has been there. So thank you, John. John sells cars and will meet all your printing needs. So I didn't give out my cell phone number is 813-230-3312. I know there's somebody out there waiting to call.
Somebody call this man immediately.
So
he
I
needs
know
to hear
somebody
from
out there
you.
waiting to call. I build it up and then give the number. So my cell phone number, personal, 813-230-3312. The web address, the website is porchtalkradio.com. And my email address is eddie@porchtalkradio.com. And we got a new sponsor this week, JA Pressure Washing. And what JA Pressure Washing do is they do commercial and residential pressure washing. So give them a call if you need your roof or your sidewalk or your driveway. You need your house, your pool deck. I mean, whatever, fencing. I mean, whatever you need pressure washing. I mean, that's a whole new budding industry out there, and it's kind of old school. It's like you get your material and then you get some cards and you got a business and you go out there and work. You get on the phone and you make deals. You get contracts. So the number for JA Pressure Washing, 813-850-6849.
Welcome aboard.
Give them a call. Call them. Tell them you heard it on the radio and Eddie Adams is putting it out. And again, if you don't need it yourself, but you know somebody that may need some pressure washing, give JA Pressure Washing a call, 813-850-6849. Okay. Speaking of young folks, I actually got a call from one of our young listeners, not one of our youngest listeners, but she's relatively young compared to me. And she listens to our show every week. And usually she says she's in the car, but sometimes she's not in the car. But she make it her business to listen to the show. And she has heard us talk about the Super Bowl in Tampa, Raymond James Stadium in 2021. Well, she said the Tampa Bay community don't have to wait to 2021 for a major event to come to Tampa. And I don't know how many of you guys are into WrestleMania, WWE. WrestleMania 36 is coming to Tampa in 2020. That means next year. Next year, Tampa Bay Times has learned they have formally announced that Raymond James Stadium will be the site of WrestleMania on April the 5th, 2020. So again, I don't know how many of you guys are into it, but you know, a couple of $100 million will be made because there's a bunch of folks coming to Tampa who are wrestling fans, and it's going to be at the stadium. So evidently they're expecting a pretty big crowd because that's the same stadium they do Super Bowl at. So I don't know I don't know about the 2-week build up and all that kind of stuff, but I wanted to make sure she knew that I listened. She called, gave me the information.
Well, that's very nice.
And it's now on our agenda, so we'll keep talking about it. And who do you get in contact with to become the entrepreneur that a lot of people are to make money? I will get some more information, get back with you on that. And for those who don't know, I will try to contact somebody from the Tampa Sports Authority, somebody from the Committee of 100. I know what it used to be called, but there's a group of people that's established that has the contact with the NFL and the Super Bowl, and have phone numbers that you can call and reserve, space and all that kind of stuff. So the Super Bowl is a big deal.
Yes.
Let me tell you, don't wait till it's too late. That's why I'm talking about it now. That's why I'm reminding you, because I know some of you haven't thought about it, but I'm just saying maybe one of these Saturdays you're listening to the show, one of your friends are listening to the show, and they come to you and say, remember that gadget widget, digamadoo that you've been talking about? Let's do it. And whatever it takes to make that happen between now and Super Bowl 2021, you get on it, get started, because like right now, many of those $1 million, deals have already been cut and been bought and paid. But if you got a, wiggle, digger, kind of thing that only you know and only you gonna do, and you figured out how to make money out of it, you're the entrepreneur, which a lot of you guys are, you need to get started. So now is the time. So next year, we got the Wrestling Mania 36, and in 2021 we got Super Bowl. So again, folks,
big things are happening.
Tampa Bay is
Little
a place,
Tampa.
place to be, and they're spending $13 billion in downtown Tampa.
That's with a B.
So by the time them folks get here, we have a brand new Tampa downtown for them to enjoy, take advantage of, and spend some money in.
There you go.
Now, I talked about Mr. Hammond. Funeral services, okay, James Arthur Hammond, November the 11th, 1929 to May 1st, 2019. Funeral service will be held Saturday, May 11th at 11 a.m. at Beulah Baptist Institutional Church, 1006 West Cypress Street, Tampa. Interment will be held Monday in Memorial Park Cemetery, Tampa. Visitation will be held Friday, 6 to 8 p.m. with the family being present from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the church. When I was looking up Mr. Hammond's obituary, I saw someone there that I knew. When I was just a pup in 1977, 1976, first went to Tampa General. There was a lady who worked in phlebotomy, and she kind of took me under her wing and got me through the first couple of months there. And when you worked in phlebotomy back in those days, you had to be to work at 5 o'clock in the morning. It was 5 o'clock in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Those were the hours you worked. And this lady was Miss Thelma Jean Magruder. And Thelma was somebody who I would never forget, because she never had a harsh word to me the whole time I worked in Tampa General, the whole time I knew her, and I actually did the photography for her wedding. So I knew her, and I knew her personally, and I saw her obituary. Thelma Jean Magruder, February the 8th, 1940 to April the 29th, 2019. The celebration of life of Miss Thelma Jean Magruder, who passed on April 29th, 2019, will be held Sunday, May 5th, which is tomorrow, at 3 p.m. at the Bible-Based Fellowship Church in Temple Terrace, 8718 North 46th Street, Tampa, Florida. Reverend Earl Mason, Senior Pastor, officiating with Pastor Willie McClendon of Shiloh Missionary Baptist Church, Lago, Florida, eulogist. Interment will follow in Laurel Hill Prairie Cemetery, 2455 Arnaz Drive in Mulberry. So she's a Polk County girl going back home to be interned. So I just thought it was important that I put that information out there, because Thelma was one of those people who, again, Mr. Hammond had been sick. I don't know the background, what happened to Thelma, but I could not let it pass that I didn't mention it and her, because, again, she was someone who when I was, as they say, when I was a nobody, she was somebody that helped make me who I am today. So, all right. What our topic for the day is, everybody's been talking about all kind of stuff, but I'm going to tell you something. Back in the early 1960s, I was in first and second grade, and they was talking about a really, really, really big experiment. And that experiment, and everybody had ideas of how it was going to turn out. That experiment was desegregation, integration. Because, when I was in first and second grade, they was only talking about it. They wasn't doing it. It was a thought. And everybody said that, that's when the whole society was going to be coffee. It was going to be cream, and all the people were going to be cream. And, only a few people every now and then come and say, oh, no, it's going to be a salad. It's going to be a tomato and some lettuce and some carrots and cucumber and all the stuff. Everything will keep its own identity. And but when you eat it, it'll be good. I'm just saying. And that's what people said. And what's happened? You look at the numbers in schooling, black folks are still behind. Even though we don't have segregated schools so much to say anymore. But if you walk into a classroom, all the black kids sit to the back of the classroom. All the white kids up front.
So it's naturally happening.
I'm saying they found a way without ever. These kids nowadays have never went to a segregated school in their life. They're not like us old timers who have had a background or a lifetime of segregation where there was no white folks in the school. I mean, it was in 1968 before they even put white teachers in the black schools. And then next thing you know, there was no black schools. All the black schools disappeared overnight. And then, as a product of the great experiment, they assumed, that everybody would balance out, white kids and black kids and Hispanic kids, and everybody would pretty much do the same. Asian kids, I mean, if you got Asian kids and you had Asian kids in your community, they were smart then, they're smart now. That's family, that's cultural. And that don't mean that, for black kids to be at the bottom of the totem pole for his intellect and education. It just happened. Then it was, and I know, when I went to a black school, I never got a book that wasn't already used by somebody. Matter of fact, they were pretty much used up. I mean, it was underlined and yellowed and marked.
As long as you had the answer, that was good to that.
Had all kind of, names in the back of the book. The little slip had ran out, and they stuck another piece of paper in there, and you started writing your name on that one. And at the bottom of the list, I guess the last person to use many of those books back in those days was me. Because when I got through with the book, it had already been used and tattered and torn, and the last little bit of information that could be assumed from that book, I guess I got it. And a lot of my classmates did. And that's the way it was. But these kids, you're talking about something that was 50 years ago. These kids know nothing. They have never went through a cultural, experiment that's like the one we did. Because everybody was saying, well, even though we haven't had integrated schools, you can't tell by the results.
Well, and I think that goes a bit deeper than just the surface right now that you're touching there, because if we looked at statistics in the minority communities, specifically the black communities, if we've got over 70% of the kids being born to fatherless homes, and we got some awesome ladies doing the best they can, making it happen, and they're working as much as they can to feed their kids and keep after them, get school done, and that's amazing. That to me is truly amazing. But statistics are proving out that a majority aren't making it, and it's not happening. And these kids are being involved more with the police. There's no discipline in the home, because I grew up through several homes, but there was usually a dad in the house saying, you better get that schoolwork done. And it helped me, obviously, because I don't want to deal with dad even when I had to.
Right.
But Mama was mean. Mama was mean. She took care of business when she had to as well.
Yeah.
So, but I think, and I don't know, Eddie, and you might be able to talk to us specifically, has it been the local churches that have let the minority communities down by not reaching in and saying, hey, if you want to have babies, you should be able to marry a man, keep him, and these are things we can teach you in the church on how to keep a husband, how husbands to keep a wife. None of that's going on except here's some money for an abortion. And right now we know statistically with abortions in this nation, millions of black babies being aborted regularly, and it's just no big deal because the black community has learned to accept it, and the church is just gone quiet. So I don't know, Eddie, what are we missing?
Well,
we don't need the government to fix anything, because how'd that work out with the Indians? It didn't.
Well, part of what we are dealing with, that's why I call it an experiment, because it was an experiment. Everybody was predicting how it would turn out. And the sad part about it, none of those predictions pretty much, came true.
Because it didn't fix where the root problem was, at home.
It didn't. What they didn't do is they did not integrate a lot of communities. Because I don't know about the North. In the South, you still got railroad tracks, and those railroad tracks still separate the black communities from the white communities, from the Hispanic communities.
Very much so.
From the Asian communities, whatever they are, people tend to clump together, find their own, and stick with it. And when I was a kid, the church was the important part of the community.
Life revolved around that.
The teachers, now this is gonna sound corny, but all the teachers you saw depends on whether you was a Methodist, a Baptist, Episcopalian. We didn't have that many Episcopalians, but you had the Baptist church and you had the ME church and you had but the teachers and the professors and those folks, you saw them in churches on Sunday. So not only were they in the school, they was in the churches, and everybody kind of knew everybody, and everybody was looking out for you in one way or another.
And that was a form of accountability by being involved in the local church. I grew up Catholic, and growing up Catholic in the Hispanic neighborhood, you see the priest when you go to church, and then the priest would be out in the community sometimes, or the nuns would be out there, and like, they're out there. And they would recognize you, and they would know who you were. And like, okay, so you found yourself not walking the line, but walking the line because you never knew you'd run across one of these people from church. And of course the neighbors who go to church and all that.
And there was a respect thing happening too.
You know, but
That's not there anymore.
But that's very true right now, because right now we're taught that if you don't agree with the law, break it. Well, gee, how come we got so many black people in jail because they're breaking the law? Now, can we say that it's all because they're all the police are racist in this nation? No, that's not true. Do we have a few bad apples? People are people, of course we do. But if we stop doing bad stuff, wrong stuff, illegal stuff, then the law would stop messing with us. That sounds too simple, Eddie.
And what I'm going to say is I'm not going to put it all on the people. I'm not going to put it on the police because as a result, we got Jane Castor. I mean, Jane Castor was
Come on now, watch out, Eddie. Watch out, this is politically correct, come on.
Was doing the best job she could. And I don't think it appeared to her that she was being racist in how she was treating the black community. I think what she thought she was trying to do is keep everybody safe, and that's what she said. So I'm gonna say, you know, I got a good friend, Orlando Goose, just won, you know, city councilman, and I know Orlando was a good person, but he's also a good cop, good policeman.
Excellent. So we like that. We need that.
Somewhere in the middle, you find good cop doing good policing, and you make a judgment call on the street as to whether or not a person that's committed a crime need to go to jail or they need to go home and get their butt whooped. You know, you see what I'm saying? You know, somewhere in the middle of that is what is happening. And as a community, you know, who looks down and look forward to saying bad things about the cops. I know right now we got a sheriff, David, I was going to say David G., Chad Cronister, who's done some stuff historically in Hillsborough County that hasn't been done before. And he got a whole different way of sheriffing than David G., who's more of an old school, you know, sheriff and all the sheriffs that came before him. So Chad is actually promoting blacks within the sheriff department, in the jail system, in the holding, and in on the street. So again, his sheriff department looks different than any other sheriff department. And as a people, we have to realize, you know, that sometime, I'm gonna tell you, if I see a bunch of thuggish looking black folks, and I don't know any other different way to put that, and I'm walking, I'm not gonna walk up to the group and walk through the group and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes, you know, depends on the situation, I may go on the other side of the street myself. I'm just saying, you know, sometimes white folks, they don't want to do that, you know, because sometimes it's being aware of where you at and what you're doing and what's in front of you.
How do we change the root issue happening in that community? I mean, Hispanics, we're dealing with our mess as well, but the question is, it seems that everybody's reaching out for the government to fix things. Everybody's reaching out for the government to give them money, reparations. Well, you know what? I've never owned a slave, and most people out there have never been a slave themselves, so why am I having to be suddenly pay for something that somebody did wrong many years ago? Well, I don't get that.
Well, that whole thing came from...
That's a mess.
That whole thing came from... They paid the Japanese, and they paid the Indian, they paid, you know, other group that the country as a whole tried to fix by giving money.
How did that work out?
And restitution. But again, see, black folks ain't never been paid restitution. So since other folks got it, you know, it's a number of them think we are owed it. And it's hard to back down off of something that you think you're owed, and it ain't got nothing to do with you. Again, sometimes people put it in their heart that they've been wrong. And if you've been wrong...
And I got that. I understand that.
And somebody think there was a way to right it with money, which is what the whole insurance industry is based upon, you know, then there's a group of people out there.
But how does reparations fix things today in 2019?
It don't. It's compensation. See, people don't understand the difference between the two. Fixing things is one thing. You can look at the lottery winners. Lottery winners win hundreds of millions of dollars, and in 5 years, 10 years, they broke. It ain't the money. It is how you change. And the reason the black community is pretty much in the same position it's been, it's a mental thing. You know, we don't have the leaders and I'm saying it, and a lot of people are going to throw stuff at the radio or however you listening to me, But we don't have the leaders that lead the community. There used to be a time when we had 3 or 4 leaders who made decisions and the community followed. We don't have those kind of leaders anymore. The community can't follow somebody just going to get elected, because sometimes we elect bad people. And the person that get elected don't want to be elected, even though they can campaign for it and they do all the work it takes to get elected. And at the end of the day, they say, oh, what the hell I got myself into? And so they regret it till it's time for them to leave or do something else. Or they doing it just for the money. It's a lot of reasons, but inevitable. If you look at the situation, look at the plight of the black community from the 50s and the 60s to now, as a community, we haven't taken that many steps forward.
It's going backwards. Looking at the father's rate, look at the abortion rate. I mean, it's going awfully backwards, and the Democrats have learned to just embrace it and accept it, and the church has been right there, okay, whatever, and then the black community's wondering, gee, why aren't we getting any better? And say, well, maybe if we had money from the past, from somebody paying, okay, well, who's going to decide who's going to pay that money? Should Barack Obama get money? No, he made millions of dollars when he was president like a regular politician. No big deal. Who decides who gets the money? What kind of education, Eddie? Should you get it? Well, you got your degrees and all that. Well, no, he's already got degrees. Who decides?
Yeah, but
it's a mess.
But see, the thing about it,
and it's not the answer.
And what we can't do is assume, that because some folks want reparation, then everybody wants reparation. Everybody don't want reparation. There's some people who have good lives. Some people got good jobs. Some people have done well for themselves despite it all. There's a whole community of people who always looking for somebody to give them money. And that is the problem, and that is something that's done by the United States government. The government back in 1932 decided that they're going to buy votes, they're going to buy loyalty, they're going to buy a bunch of stuff, and by doing that, they just start paying people off, literally. Paying people off, giving money, rewarding the family for not having a black male in the house. They didn't do that to the Hispanic. They didn't do that to the Asian. The only people they did that to were black folks. You could not have a black male in the house. The Hispanics come over, the entire family come over, and the dad's there, and the mom's there, and the
Grandma.
kids there, and everybody's there. And we got a caller. So caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this Saturday. We're just getting into it, trying to explain where we at. So welcome, and what say you this Saturday afternoon, caller? Welcome.
Just a comment. We give millions of dollars in aid and money to Saudi Arabia and Israel. So if we can afford to give all that money to them, I think we can probably come up with a little money for us. You know what I'm saying?
Amen. I like that. That's a good point. Very good point.
Yeah. Well, and good. That's why I want to make sure that everybody understands that as a community, we became beggars, because somebody wanted us to become beggars.
They had to control us.
That was exactly it.
They had to breed us just right.
They want to make
and
sure
they got it.
They maintain control over the black community, and they start giving stuff. And of the two political parties,
both are bad.
You know which one decided that they were going to do whatever it took to get black folks to like them, and now black folks actually like them. Now
they dumped them. The Democrats have dumped the black folks. They're going on to the illegal aliens. They ain't got time for black people's issues anymore.
Yeah, but again, it's a little bit more than that. And because of politics, a lot of folks in the black community find themselves where they at. We got another caller. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio. Glad you joined us. What say you this afternoon?
Well, first of all, thanks for taking my call. I'd just like to make a comment. This is about the integrated school system. Integration.
Yes.
I think it's a good idea, and I see the logic of it. However, that should be done at a later age, because when a child first leaves home to go to school, the first grade, school is really just an extension of that child's family. And that child and his family, which is the first school, then he or she goes to another school. That is the school I think should be just like the child's family, composed of people just like the child is used to in their family. Let the integration part come along later on in the child's life, maybe say at the college level perhaps. But the early formative stages, I think it's incumbent upon that child's race to educate them in their early years.
I do want to thank him for the call
They shouldn't
first.
be jumped and lumped all together at such an early, tender age. They should wait until later on to try that integration.
Well, thank you for your comments and thank you for calling.
I appreciate that.
The experiment has been going on for 50 years, and it won't ever go back to where it started because the country was different. All the people in the country were different 50 years ago. Many of the people who experienced those experiences are dead, and the new folks don't know anything about it. You can't teach culture once a certain period has passed. Then it just becomes learning. You're learning something that's in the book.
In the history books, yeah.
Different between learning something and having experienced it.
Well, now, Eddie, I understand what the caller said, but I don't agree from the standpoint of when I grew up in Hispanic neighborhoods, rough, tough neighborhoods, the fact that I was able to go out into the night. Elementary school was the initial school we all started in right there in our neighborhood, and that was fine. And then from that point forward, started busing us out to integrate us into the white schools. And you know what? I liked it because I got to see the other side of the coin. It's supposed to just my hood, just my hood people.
Right.
Well, I know how they think. Obviously, the same way I do, we wouldn't all be in the same place.
Right.
But when I got shipped out to other schools, in nicer neighborhoods, you start looking around, boy, there's some nice cars out here. This is a nice, look, there's nice houses. And you get to meet other kids, and they're thinking different, they're talking different. And suddenly you go, wow, so this is what it's like to be on the other side of the tracks. Because we were being bussed over the other side, literally,
Right.
on the other side of the track.
You're visiting.
You're visiting, you basically.
Right, yeah,
And you go, wow,
yeah.
this is nice. I look forward to one day being able to do this. I look forward to being able, but if I would have just stayed in my hood the whole time,
Yeah.
I may not have made it out of school.
Well, again, think about this. Back before desegregation, all the black kids went to a black school from 1st grade to 12th grade. So you didn't get, and you learned differently, and your teachers taught your mama and your grandmama and your granddad. So these people always had your best interest at heart, and this is something that's different from teaching today. Is teaching is a job, and I'm not trying to put it down or anything like that. But see, back in the olden days, those teachers not only taught you, they was a part of your life. They somebody who you remember. I remember my 2nd grade teachers. I remember the teachers who taught me in elementary school, all of them, all the way through. A lot of the teachers I've had in college and other places, I don't remember them because they didn't impact my life the same way, and they didn't love me. I'm just saying, it was more of a job. They were there to get their check, as opposed to actually calling my mom, having conversation with my mom, having known who my sisters and my brothers were, and having that as references as to, because I'm the oldest in my family, so my sisters and my brothers, got, from the teachers, well, Eddie was this and Eddie was that, and I know because they told me, but all that is part of a system of making you better people. It was culture. It's culturized, which now you don't get culturized in the school because those teachers don't know you, and you are there this year, next year you got a different one, and next year you got a different one, and again,
Hopefully.
you don't get connected to them the way we did. So I'm just making this, and I'm gonna go to something else now because I got this piece of paper in front of me that Michelle Patty left. And it's about a free event, which is next Saturday, and it's a Mother's Precious Love, a pre-Mother's Day concert. And it's next Saturday. Doors open at 3. program begins at 4, and it's at you got MC King Cobra and Howard Word. Julia Jackson is gonna do some poems, and it's at the Greater New Salem PB Church. So PB Piscon, I'm not sure what it is. So
Episcopalian, is that what you're
I
saying?
don't. It say PB, so that I'm saying what it says on
Peanut
the
butter.
flyer. It says Greater New Salem PB Church at 1605 North Nebraska Avenue in Tampa. So this is next Saturday, a pre-Mother's Day concert, and you got the exciting gospel warriors, Howard Word. You got Julia Jackson, Anointed Heavenly Voices. So there's gonna be some singing, it's gonna be some talking, and at the end of the day, the program, the event is free. So show up. I told Michelle Patty I would pass this flyer on to my wife, because that's who she told me to do. And being one of them black males who do what they're told,
Smart man.
I'm gonna give this flyer to my wife.
That keeps you married. I like that.
But I mentioned it on the show. So you guys show up next Saturday for a pre-Mother's Day event concert. I got Proverb 1:8-9. So
Okay.
so
There you go.
So we done it. We did it. And
Now, Eddie, tomorrow, Cinco de Mayo. I want to give a quick little blurb about
Okay.
Cinco de Mayo.
Okay.
People don't know what it's all about.
yeah, what is Cinco de Mayo?
I'm glad you asked. The date is observed to commemorate the Mexican Army's victory over the French Empire at the Battle of Puebla, on May the 5th. That was a tiny village. On May the 5th, 1862, under the leadership of General Ignacio Zaragoza. The victory of the smaller Mexican force against a larger French force was to boost morale for the Mexicans. So basically what happened is France showed up and said, yo, time to pay the rent. And this little village said, we don't got no money for stinking rent. We think we kill you.
We ain't got no stinking
So,
rent.
and this is a Mexican doing this, yes. So anyway, the end result is the Mexicans killed off this little French group that showed up to collect money, taxes, or rent, however you want to call it. And then about a year later, the French showed up and killed the whole village. So that's why we celebrated Cinco de Mayo. It's just history, folks. Yes, it's all worth celebrating with tequila.
Okay.
There we go.
And that Gabriel is a native Mexican.
I'm more of a Calpanic, which is a Caucasian Hispanic,
Okay.
because I was adopted. I grew up in the Mexican neighborhood with Mexican family, and then I was adopted by a British family. So that's why I call myself a Calpanic, a Caucasian Hispanic.
Okay.
But there we go, the history on Cinco de Mayo.
Okay. All right. So while we off.
Oh
topic,
no, now it's history time.
Yeah, we gotta do.
Oh my
on this
goodness,
day.
are you sure?
Okay, on this day,
Oh boy.
which is May 4th, 1626, the Dutch explorer Peter Minuit landed on Manhattan Island. Native Americans later sold the island, which was 20,000 acres, for $24 in clothes and some buttons. Everybody's heard the story.
Can you imagine the taxes off of that right now?
New York City was the island of Manhattan, and they bought it from the native Indians for basically some blankets and some trinkets.
But we've gotten them back for reparations now.
Yeah. On this day, May 4th, in 1715, a French manufacturer debuted the first folding umbrella. So the umbrella is a French invention.
Really?
Yeah.
No wonder I always want French fries that turn open up umbrellas. I wonder
Yeah.
what's going on.
On this day, May 4th, 1904, the U.S. formally took control of the property for construction of the Panama Canal.
And then we gave it back. Thanks, Jimmy Carter.
Yeah, they finally
We
did.
paid to construct that. We paid to
built it.
build that,
Yeah.
and then we gave it to them.
We changed the world.
The lease was up, and Jimmy Carter's like, "Oh no, it's your you can have it."
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. Well, we would have kept it forever, but again, some globalist decided
Good term. I like that.
that the Panamanians could control it with their crooked corrupt government and all the other stuff.
As opposed to let our corrupt government run it.
As opposed to what we were doing. So anyway, trillions of miles have been saved because as opposed to going all the way around the southern end of South America, like all the ocean-going ships had to do, going from east to west, west to east, they stop halfway across and go across the Panama Canal for a fee. And last but not least, on May, I can't read it, so.
On May the what?
Okay, I'm trying to read something Tim is trying to show me, so you got to say it. Say it.
May the 4th be with you.
Oh, may the force be with you. Again, see, because it wasn't in regular letters, there's some kind of mixed up letters there, and they got
Caucasians are so funny, aren't they?
all fancy, curvy stuff, and it's all running together.
Is that cursed? Oh my goodness, I can't read that.
Yeah, so.
Like the young ones.
So anyway, and last but not least, on May 4th, 1979, which a lot of you folks were born, Margaret Thatcher became Britain's first female woman prime minister.
And she was tough.
Up to that point, they all had been male.
She had accomplished a lot of things
So,
for that group of
so she was
people.
one of the first female world leaders that stepped up and held the mantle with an iron fist.
Big time.
As-
She didn't play. She was like our John Bolton is right now without the mustache.
That's what she was doing. She was an iron-fisted ruler. So
No games.
And she put the royalty in its place. I think that was the first time the British royalty actually knew the prime minister ran the country, not the king and the queen and all those folks. That kind of started with her too. Because I guess it was different because the queen had basically ran the country, ran the world, and so another female didn't feel, that male-female friction. So
It's kind of like two alpha chicks.
Margaret say, you guys are just headstones. Y'all are basically here for show. We actually run the country, and y'all got the money and stuff, but we make the decisions. So Parliament and all that kind of stuff, took a different light and everything. The world changed, and Margaret Thatcher went on historically to be one of those figures. Because before Margaret, it was Churchill, right? So
Somewhere in there.
it was somebody. I know Churchill was World War II, so by '79 it probably was somebody in between there. But
Sure.
but again,
They didn't make the impact that Churchill or Thatcher did.
yeah, that was the British.
Mhm.
Okay, the next topic we're gonna bring up here. We only got a couple minutes, to talk about. Is we're gonna talk about Juneteenth. And Juneteenth comes every year, and it's one of those things that the black community celebrates. Now we're doing more to celebrate it now than we have in the past, because in Texas they've been celebrating Juneteenth since the Emancipation Proclamation, since it actually happened in Texas.
That all the Republicans voted for and the Democrats didn't.
And the last freed slaves were out of Texas, because that's the further west the country actually went. And we started celebrating Juneteenth here in Tampa, because I was once the chairman of the Sheriff Black Advisory Council. And
Are you off that?
And I'm still there. I'm not chairman anymore.
Yeah.
And the Sheriff Black Advisory Council used to do an awards banquet in October, and not this current sheriff, the past sheriff, decided that he has a Indian council, he had a Hispanic council, and he had a black council, and that's 3 events and different times of the year to celebrate, and I guess he didn't want to do 3 different celebrations of cultural, diversity, so he made them all one. So we all came together, and it took our time period, which is like the 3rd or 4th Thursday in October, to do it. And so for 4 or 5 years, we had one celebration, and as a statement, we said, okay, well, we need to get a celebration that white folks can't take. And so we took Juneteenth. It was a celebration we needed in this community. It needed to happen. And there's a national Juneteenth coalition in which more and more communities and I hate to say it, but President Donald Trump has signed on and is hearing legislation to make Juneteenth a national holiday. So again, there's a group working on that and trying to make that happen. And the Juneteenth is the celebration of freedom for Black folks in America. It's the celebration based upon the Emancipation Proclamation, and it took 2.5 years because they signed the Emancipation Proclamation on January the 1st, 1863. So it took from 1863 to 1865 in June for the word to go from Washington, D.C. to Texas to get all the slaves in between frees.
That was for Texas.
So I don't care how you went from Washington to Texas. It didn't take that long. But again, you got a lot of games being played, and people didn't want to let their slaves go without being reimbursed. Without reparations. With the white folks for getting rid of their slaves and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of politics involved in the whole process. But Juneteenth should mean something, and every year I have to explain less and less because more and more white folks know what Juneteenth is.
Well, and it's a history, I think, that isn't being taught anymore, because if we really looked at where it all started, we know that the North was basically dealing with slaves.
Yeah.
The South tried to fight it, and the wars that went on, civil wars we have, was trying to get freedom for that. So lots of white people lost their life trying to fight that fight for Black people to be to be not slaves anymore.
Right.
And if we continue following history, they're talking about reparations now. I'm thinking, well, gee, why doesn't the Democratic Party have a reparations department set up? Because it was basically that organization that said it, and they're the ones right now that are yelling it. You're like, wait a minute, why are you yelling it when you're the ones that started it?
Well,
it's foolishness.
Well, it's the candidates.
And people are falling for it. They don't listen, Eddie. They don't read.
It's the candidates, and at this point, they're
trying to get votes.
They're trying to get votes, and they're lying to people, and they're trying to be popular and trying to tell people what people hear. They're trying to tell people what people want to hear. And
Free everything.
You got a whole population of young white folks who want tuition paid for college, and they want free stuff too. So you got a bunch of snowflakes coming up, and they think that's the way to garner votes with Middle America. So I'm getting the finger. It ain't that finger, but he can change it to that finger.
Come on now.
Because it means 1 minute. So again, I want to thank everybody for listening to us today here on Porch Talk Radio. We do this every week. We're trying to bring you information that helps you think about things a little differently. And I want you to know that we love you. Tampa Bay, thanks. Until next week at 1 o'clock, right here on TMP. I'm saying bye-bye.
God bless America.
All right, bye-bye.
We are WTMP.